What's up, good people? War Eagle, we are back. The War Report. It's your man Ike Jones with the whole crew for the first time this season. Mike G down here, my man Caesar here, B Will. Before we get into this week right here, let's talk about how you guys can stay up on what's happening with us. Click like and subscribe on the YouTube if you're on the YouTube channel right now, or if you want to go and watch this later. Make sure you're up on all the stuff on YouTube, man. We're gonna have some exclusive stuff that's just going to be on YouTube. I don't want to talk about it too much because we haven't really decided if we can really do it. Anyway, that's irrelevant. Also, you can go ahead and hit us up on the Twitter and the Instagrams at The War Report. And if you are a TikTok user, we actually have a TikTok now. We're dropping some content over there. Exclusive content for each of those channels will be coming. So make sure you are following everywhere if you want to get up on everything War Report related. And just because it still is valid, 45, 48 War Eagle. Gentlemen, Auburn 1-0. Kentucky went down, and we are on to Georgia.
Love the mug.
Thank you. Yeah, so let's talk about, before we get into everything, let's talk about the game that was. We had a kind of an instant reaction show. Now that we've had a chance to digest what happened in that Kentucky game, what are you guys feeling about Kentucky? Or the game, I should say, not necessarily the team. Anybody?
Go ahead, man. Oh, okay. I was waiting on Brian. I was waiting on Brian because we ain't heard from Brian in a while. But
that's true.
Ultimately, I feel like this team took a step forward from last year. This does look like this is Chad Morris's offense. I think that was the number one concern kind of going into the offseason, coming back into the season, was, are we going to see more of the same from Gus Malzahn, or are we going to see something different, right? Like, we saw players running routes over the middle of the field. They seemed to mix it up even in the first half. Even though I was not enamored with Bo Nix's performance in the first half, I felt like the scheme set him up to make some plays. And then in the second half, they seemed to have found a groove. This team is going to have a different identity. Overall, I feel good about it. I think that, what we're going to need to do going forward is, learn that if we can't establish a true number one running back, that might not be part of our identity going forward. So that's what I'm going to be watching going into Georgia. Like, how do they feel about our run pass deal here moving forward?
Oh, what you got, B Will? Talk to us, B Will, on his inaugural 2020 COVID-19 season War Report. Talk to us. How you feeling, brother?
Man, it was hard to watch the game completely because I've been of the mindset that, I don't know how many other people felt this way, but is college football going to happen? If it happens, is it going to be able to continue to completion? If it does, is it even going to count? How many games going to have to get canceled, skipped? So I was coming into this like, man, I don't know, man. I'm just convinced that some schools going to get COVID, and then it's going to be a big conference school. They're going to have to skip too many games, and then we're going to have to push the season back. But I ain't going to lie, man. When I woke up on Saturday, I saw game day on TV. I was like, yeah, man. All right, we playing in shoes. I was watching, and I'm with you, Mike. Bo, I don't know if Bo is better, but I do think Chad Morris is better than just Gus at the wheel. The second half, watching the ball move as much to different places, Gus is kind of anti-adjustment, and even when he does adjust, I don't know if his adjustments always pay off. Like every game when we were kind of challenged in the first half last year, we moved the ball better the second half, but we didn't score enough points at any point. And part of that was Bo's young and Bo was shook. This game, it seems like halftime, all right, we got it, good, okay, break. And then second half, they was just going, man. It was good to see some movement result in points, not just yardage after halftime. I didn't watch the whole game. I watched probably about 2.5, 3 quarters. Because once we got up a couple of touchdowns, I'm like, all right, we good. I don't have to watch this no more. But it was still really good to see us move the ball and score points after half. Bo still looks a little too much like old Bo, but I got to take into account that they didn't get spring ball in. They didn't truly get fall camp in. They had to cancel a scrimmage. They had to cancel a bunch of practices. So he'll probably be whatever improvement he's gonna make it as the season progresses, which is probably a good thing. That gives us an advantage because all our opponents are starting new quarterbacks or new coordinators. So we'll have a little bit of an advantage in that sense. And Chad Morris' system isn't too different from Gus's. I mean, they are philosophically similar. So that may have resulted in shortening the learning curve. But I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged that the defense adjusted so well second half because we lost a lot of talent. And it was encouraging overall. I think it was an encouraging performance. It wasn't a perfect one, but it was a good one though.
Yeah, definitely some things to learn from. Caesar, you got anything that you want to add there?
I didn't see any speed sweeps. That was refreshing. It let me know that this is a different offense.
I don't know that we didn't run a
not one
the whole game.
Not one jet sweep. Not one jet sweep.
Not one.
Maybe they were holding it back for Georgia, like they got it in their back pocket, like, oh yeah, I thought we forgot about it.
Right.
Yeah. So it was again, it was refreshing to see something new, right? And I just want to see Bo each week take the next step. I want to see him start as the offensive line gels. I want to see him begin to get comfortable in the pocket and trust the pocket, step into the pocket so that he can see the entire field and go through his progressions, as opposed to rolling out to the right and cutting the field in half. Yeah. And so I just want to see him begin to each week improve. So yeah, there was glimpses of last year in that game, but for the most part, Bo did what he was supposed to do when the defense gave us a short field. So I'm happy about that, and I'm happy about Newkirk and the guys up front on the D line stepping up and beginning to push back on a very experienced Kentucky line. That was very promising. The first game. So those are my remarks.
And elite Kentucky offensive line.
Yeah, we'll talk about how that bodes for our defense performing against what we saw from Georgia's offense here in just a minute. But I definitely am encouraged that one of the touted by almost every person who talked about this game previous to this game was the biggest challenge is going to be Kentucky's offensive line is just going to be so experienced and they're so good up front. And Auburn's defensive line is going to be so new, they're going to get pushed around the whole game. And honestly, the first half, that's what you saw. You saw us getting pushed around a lot. They made the adjustments in the second half to figure out what was going to happen to be effective in that second half. You saw, you mentioned Newkirk get through there. Truesdale was solid the entire game. The little bit that Big Cat came in and played, he actually made his presence felt along the outside. At some point in time, I'm hoping TD Moultrie learns how to stay on sides so that we don't have to get those kind of penalties. But yes, the outside pass rush is still a thing that I don't know that we've seen that guy that's going to be that havoc maker from the outside that makes people have to adjust their whole coverage that direction, their whole, shift the way that they're going to be having the blocking schemes up front, maybe doing chips and stuff. Like I need to see that guy that's going to be that sensei on the outside or that, that forward type of guy. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to see that Lawson over
Holland.
Jake Holland. I want to see that guy off of the edge. That's going to be a real person that they're going to have to fear in third and long situations where it's like, if you don't account for this guy, he's blowing the entire situation up. Right.
Right. Well, hold on, wait. We can't do a whole ass game recap and then not talk about how well our defensive backs played during this game as well, too.
I'm going to get there.
That was
going to get there. Yeah. I wanted to circle back to something B said that I talked about in the post game that you and I had, Mike, about Bo Nix, and you mentioned this a little bit, Caesar. The thing that I think, and I went back and I watched the game film a little bit more, that is discouraging because I was initially very high on Bo Nix coming out of the game. Like he did a really great job. The thing that's discouraging for me is that what I saw was Kentucky in the defensive backfield was not being super aggressive, and Bo did not have to come off of his first read much at all. The vast majority of the completions that he had down the field, that was his first read in the progression. And so what I want to see is when he gets into a situation where Kirby Smart's going to be mixing coverages in the back end and his first read isn't there, is he just going to bail? And if he doesn't
roll to the right.
If he doesn't figure out how to reset and throw to a check down or go to a second read in that progression, and it's not just whatever his first read is, he's going to hit that and be precise with it, then he's going to have trouble. And honestly, every situation where he had any pressure, it was early pressure. So you really didn't get to see it an opportunity. It was either his first read was open and he hit it, or the pressure was early and he bailed out, right? He didn't adjust in the pocket or any of that stuff. So that's that second step that I think, Mike, you were talking about, you want to see out of him of like, reset your feet, get down the field, find the next target, accurately throw the ball to him. A lot of the stuff that we talked about, mechanics with his feet going off of balance, was just him bailing out too early.
Yeah, I mean, end of the day, like, just he's a veteran quarterback now. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I don't want to see any rookie plays where you're throwing the ball 30 yards down the field off your back foot. I mean, he completed some of those passes last year. And the danger in completing those passes is that you think you can always do that if the coaches don't coach that out of you. So just like we're seeing that, the hope is that when they looked at the game tape, they're like, okay, so you completed this pass, but this could have been a whole ass disaster against any other team but Kentucky, right? Like, you know, and so that's where I'm at. I mean, listen, I'm hopeful for Bo Nix, but I feel like I don't have a choice. Gus Malzahn has bet his whole $50 million contract on Bo. So it's Bo or bust for us right now, unless the kid from Bowling Green is the next Nick Marshall, right? Like, I don't know. We have to be somewhat optimistic, but I would be like, I saw in the first half, I saw some of the old Bo, and I was like, oh Lord, it's going to be a long season, right? And what I hope is that, again, when they go back and they look at when they're installing offense for Georgia this week, for you guys that don't know, right, usually Mondays are off. Tuesday, Wednesday, they hit practice. Thursday is kind of like a walkthrough type deal where they go no contact because they don't want anybody to get hurt for the game. No practice on Friday, walkthrough Saturday before the game, right? So, like, when they go through walkthroughs tomorrow and they start installing game plan, I hope what they see is that what you talked about, Ike, that he did not have to go to his second or third read very much. You have to know that, again, for everybody who doesn't know how it works, right? Our athletic department takes our coach's film, puts it on a plane, and sends it to Georgia, and then they send us our tape. So everything that we saw just as fans, Georgia's coaches are going to see that and then some before this game. They're going to get the game tape, and they're going to look at it. They're going to say, you know what? Let's force him out to his right. Let's blitz from the left and force him out to his right. And he's not very accurate when he's throwing. Let's see if we can let's see if we can lull him into some of these throws that he completed last week, because they got much better athletes on defense.
Right.
And I think Kirby Smart is a decent game planner. I think that, if you're Chad Morris, you have to have a plan to counter for that. Right. And hopefully maybe that's where the run game comes in this week.
Well, that's the encouraging thing I think about Chad Morris being on the staff is I do think that his offense is multi-layered enough that you've seen one iteration of this, but we've got some other things that we can throw in here that you haven't seen, just because it's not really the same 5 plays with different window dressing. Like Gus Malzahn, as much as I have loved him as a recruiter, and he's had some really big moments for Auburn as the offensive coordinator. He's gotten us to the national championship. We can sit here and tout all of his accomplishments and how he's done a decent job as a head coach. He's not like a world changer, but he's a decent head coach. The reality is the offense has 5 plays, and they just are coming out of different formations. And then he has some random trick plays that he throws in there. But like his playbook is 5 plays out of different formations.
Pretty much.
Teams have started to catch up with it. They're like, this is what they do. Okay, we know how we want to combat that, and you have to have that world beater quarterback to make this offense unstoppable. Right. And we have not had that guy.
Right.
Marshall.
We didn't see a lot of passes to the running back. We didn't see a lot of passes to the running back or a tight end. So my thing is can we incorporate other people and get them into the offense outside of Seth Williams? Because again, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban disciple, Nick Saban, Belichick disciple. What do? Take away what you are comfortable with doing. And Bo Nix is comfortable throwing to Seth Williams. So you got to know and understand that they're going to try to take Seth Williams out of the game. Now, what I like about this offense is that we've seen Seth Williams in the slot, something that we hardly ever saw last year. So they are going to move Seth Williams around. I like to see them use him as a decoy, look him off and try to hit other people. Like I would like to see them do something different other than relying on Seth Williams, because that's what has gotten Bo Nix in trouble in games when they take him away. He has nowhere to go, and that's when chaos starts.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that he's comfortable with Seth.
Listen, while we're on the subject of Seth Williams, I don't know if anybody else saw this, but this was a big takeaway from this game. I was hot on it last season, and I'm still seeing a little bit. Seth Williams runs hot during the game.
Yes, indeed. He was doing a lot of talking, and he was like pointing at guys after he caught it on them, flexing on them. Yeah, his emotions are super high the entire game.
It was more than just a flex, though. On that touchdown that he caught where he mossed the dude, right? He pushed him in his helmet away and then flexed, and that could have easily been a flag, right? And so
I'd have been mad if that was flag, though, because he was just pushing the dude off of him at the end of the play. Like,
nah, man, go back and watch that. Go back and watch that.
If they flagged it, trust me, I've seen this many, many times. I understand that it could have been a flag. I would have personally been upset at that flag. Where I feel like he went too far is the flex. The push off was just like, man, get off me, bro. And then the flex was like, okay, that's a taunt at that point.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, it was an easy, unsportsmanlike penalty because it was unnecessary.
I thought he could have gotten flagged for a couple of unsportsmanlikes. Like the first catch he made on the sideline, the dude fell on the ground and he looked down at him and pointed at him. I was like, dude, you gotta relax.
You don't want to take away. You don't want to take away his edge, but in a close game, that unsportsmanlike is going to matter. Right. And so I hope that when they look at the film too, that he ran some sprints, so like they warned him about that, because I saw a lot of that last season, and we're starting the season with this, and I like the confidence, and I don't think you need to take away his edge. You know, he plays with a chip on his shoulder, man. Like
that's exactly
what
it is. I think he's feeling overlooked, the fact that he wasn't a first-team All-SEC wide receiver preseason. He's like, all right, I'm about to show y'all what's up. And I mean, there was a lot of talking both ways in this game. Just, like all game long, you're seeing guys talk to each other post-snap. And, it was a I don't know how we got bad blood with Kentucky, or if this is just the Auburn team that they're coming here with this edge of like, man, we've been counted out for too long, and they want to come into the game with this aggression. But you're right, it can go too far too quickly, especially in a game where it, like you said, it becomes close and emotions are high already, or you're losing that game and the talking that you did earlier comes back to bite you, and now we got to fight because my feelings hurt, right? So we'll see.
And got Georgia this week, so it's going to be more trash talking. So
I like the confidence, man. I was glad to see it.
I love his confidence.
I was kind of hyped. I was like, ooh.
I love his confidence.
Let's do it.
You know what I'm saying? I just need him to understand where the line exists so that he doesn't hurt his team as a result of it. Kentucky,
but you know them boys
trash talk a little bit.
They've been waiting to get back out there, man. They didn't know they was gonna have a season. I can imagine a lot of that was usually we're taking that out on somebody who is, Georgia Southern or we played a couple of opening weekend games here lately, but I think starting in conference for the first game of the year probably add a little juice to it, especially when you didn't even know if you was gonna have a season. That probably add a little juice. But,
not for Seth Williams, because he was doing that all last year, right? Like that's carryover. Yeah. Right, like so. That's why I'm like,
he just got another layer of it this year because he feels like he's supposed to be that guy, and he's trying to prove it on the field. But again, his play definitely backed it up. Other than that first drop, which was really ridiculous, like there's no reason he should have dropped the very first ball of the game. But outside of that, he had a really great game. He came up with some spectacular catches.
Any game where you moss somebody, like you had a great game. But if you moss somebody in a game.
My sneaky moment of the game that made me say, okay, we might have something here, was Tank Bigsby running the ball out of the end zone on the kickoff and absolutely running through this dude at the 27-yard line. And he got like another 8 yards after that, stumbling over a man. I was like, this dude runs angry, bro.
Poor feller.
He came downhill on this dude so fast. And it's one of those things where it's like, all right, I'm not going to try to juke you. Tackle me. And he ran straight through a guy. I was like, ugh. I don't know if you want to see him in the open field, bro, with a head of steam. That might be a bad proposition for anybody. And he's a freshman, bro. Like, let him put, a year under his belt where he really kind of feel like if he's not scared of contact as a first game freshman coming in like that, I don't know. That might be. I want to see him in the backfield a little bit more if he's gonna run angry like that.
Yeah, listen, they gave him a shot. They gave him a shot Saturday, right? Like, so I mean, we got to see quite a bit. I mean, it looks like they're setting him up.
Apparently, hurt his ankle though halfway through the game, so that's why he wasn't getting as many carries in the second half.
I see.
Why am I not? Why is the name?
Shivers.
Shivers.
Shivers
Apparently hurt his ankle in the game. So like second half, they just kind of let him rest and let the other two take the load after that. So yeah, he's going to get his opportunities. We'll see. I think they had committed to Shivers being the starting guy. I still don't know what's happened with Mark Anthony Richards. Like I haven't really heard anything of why he didn't get any play time for real.
Yeah, I was curious about that.
Yeah. DJ Williams didn't look good.
No,
DJ Williams didn't look good.
He tripped over the 3-yard line for whatever reason.
He could have walked in, but yeah.
Yeah, he didn't look great, and that's not, fortunately we have enough other guys that are out there, but that's not one of those things when the backfield room is crowded, when the running back room is crowded, every snap counts, bro. Like you need to be out here making it count every time you touch the rock. So
do y'all think we need like a bell cow back? Because I know that's kind of been Gus's thing is we've got that one back and he's going to sort himself out by the second or third game and then we just ride him for the rest of the season. But do we okay, so DJ Williams, he was showing some promise, but yeah. I don't know if anybody is a complete back. That's what makes me think. Do we have a complete back?
I think Tank
he's too young
to be that guy. I mean, I don't care about you. Michael Dyer was a freshman.
Who?
Michael Dyer.
He was. Yeah. We also didn't have no other options though, because we was thin back there. Like it was.
I mean, talent, bro.
I look at teams like Clemson, right? And while they got some backs, like they'll rotate a back on you, and he'll get out there and produce as well. I mean, as long as you're producing, I don't think you need to have that guy who you got running 20, 30 times.
Clemson still has a feature back in their backfield every year.
Yeah,
they have the one guy who is going to get the majority of the carry. Yeah,
ATN is still there. Yeah,
has been the guy in Clemson. J.K. Dobbins was the guy in Ohio State. Josh Jacobs was the guy at Alabama. Najee Harris is the guy right now at Alabama. Like who their feature back is. Alabama's gonna rotate 2 or 3 guys in there.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of those carries are gonna come from a particular person. And I think and to answer your question, B, I don't know if it's necessary if your identity is no longer gonna be tied to a run game. It is important to have consistency in the backfield because what tends to happen is changing out personnel in the backfield starts to tip people's hands as to what the play is. Because it's like, okay, This is the guy they bring in for this kind of package. So we know it's likely going to be one of these 3 plays with him back there. Because we knew what's the kid's name that went to the same school as Kerryon?
Malik
Miller. Yeah, we knew when Malik Miller came in the game, 9 times out of 10
run block. Pass block. Yeah.
He was our pass protection guy. He was not going to get the ball 9 times out of 10. The only options were a running back screen or it's going to be a straight up thing where he's staying in the block. So the linebacker automatically knows if Malik Miller stays, he's my responsibility. That's a free rush because I don't have anybody in pass protection, right? So you begin to tip your hand if you can't have a guy that can be a 3-down back. Because this other guy in, this is probably where they're going with the thing, Again, smart defensive coordinators start to pick up on those tendencies after they see 2 or 3 games of film on you. So I think just for the simple fact of not tipping your hand with your formations.
But that's why I think Tank wouldn't get the burn.
Go ahead, B. Will, and then I'll come to you, Mike.
The reason I'm worried about Tank getting the burn, he might have the skill set, he might have the power and the speed and the endurance to be our 3-down back, but he's got to be a pass blocker. And If we're gonna be as balanced as we have looked since Bo's been the quarterback, and we've all wondered why are y'all so committed to? It seems like they just want to showcase Bo. I don't know if it's been an honest change in Gus's approach and philosophy, or it's been we just want to showcase Bo. And I'm still a little shaky on why you go away from the run game as much as we have. I know we were not as good run blocking last year as we were pass blocking. So I don't know if we're playing to our strengths or we are just committed to making Bo a star quarterback. But either way, you're going to have to be able to, like you said, not tip your hand with the running back that's in the game. And that means you got to, if it's going to be Tank, you got to lead Tank in the game on pass plays too. And with a shortened spring, with almost non-existent fall camp, does he have that? Does he have that? I mean, I know he doesn't have those reps, and that's why Gus really has never let anybody start freshman year fresh out the gate. Kerryon didn't get on the field to his fifth game. Now, once he got on the field by like the fifth game in that year, he was on indefinitely. But Kerryon's a all world as far as scheming and understanding the game. So do you have Tank in there to take on that duty, especially when we're playing somebody this early in the season that is formidable in Georgia? I mean, I think it would be DJ Williams or Sean Shivers, but I'm with you, Ike. I'm excited by the fact that Tank looked as ready to go physically as he did, but we might still be telegraphing early because he may not be ready to pass block for as much as what they want to do.
Yeah, and that's true. That's true of most freshman running backs, though. Yeah. They usually don't come on until midway towards the end of the season. They got the playbook down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're in an offense that is like run heavy, and then they, their responsibility is just going to be sit back there and find the hole, and we're going to hit
right.
This offense wanting to be more balanced. Your running back needs to be a little bit more multi. He needs to be able to catch the ball because we need to screen to you every now and then. He needs to be able to pass protect because we need to be able to keep you in for that purpose. This is a good question, though, and I'm going to let you start here, kind of wrapping up that conversation, Mike, and going into this question, leading into this running back coaching, your thoughts in general. So just let's talk about the idea of the feature back that B. Will is talking about and Tank Bigsby possibly filling that role, and then let's talk running back coach.
You know what? We will TBD. First of all, we need some running back talent, right? And we've seen that for the first stretch, Auburn, we're kind of missing on home run running back talent. Booby Whitlow wasn't it. I was never on the Booby train. Like, he just fumbled too much. When they said he was off the team, I did not shed a tear about that, right? Like, to me, he had his moments where he made big plays, but, the times where he fumbled or missed blocking assignments or did some boneheaded play that is really inexcusable for a guy with his experience in the system. I thought that was more of an indictment, on talent than coaching. So we'll see what happens with Tank. I mean, we've had some big time backs come through that just really have amounted to nothing. And you guys know my thing is player development, right? We see it happening on defense. We mentioned earlier, are we surprised that the defense adjusted in the second half? No, we saw that all last year, right? Like, I mean, it is a little nervous when you lose first rounders on your D-line to the NFL draft, right? Like, whether you can fill that production or not. But I expected this defense, even if they had not achieved it by the second half of that game, I would expect to see it in the next game, from game 1 to game 2. On offense, like so I'm going to answer the question about the running back coach by answering the question about the offense as a whole. My confidence in talent development on the offense as a whole is about a 2 out of 10, period, because we haven't seen it. I mean, listen, we are burning out 5 stars. They are transferring, right? We've had some crazy talent come through. If you're a wide receiver, I don't know why you come to Auburn at this point, right? Like, Gus is not going to get you the ball. So it's exciting to see, since Sammy Coates that we've had a guy like, Seth Williams could come in, and he wasn't highly recruited, so, what was the kid that ended up going to Georgia, Pickens? Man, we missed on him. I was just like, you know what? We missed him, but I don't blame him for not coming to Auburn, where they don't, like, wide receivers aren't highly featured. We are wasting Schwartz. We have been. I mean, let's talk about what a miracle is that he played a whole game without getting injured. right? And when it comes down to running backs, the conversation about running backs is a non-starter for me this year because I don't think that they're going to be part of our long-term offensive identity moving forward. I really don't. I think our short passing game is going to become our running game. And then the backs need to be able to just make plays here and there to keep the defense honest because we have operated in reverse for the last 10 years where it was heavy run, play action, and then you hit them over the top every once in a while to loosen up the defense and keep them honest. I think it's going to work the other way around. Gus has been trying to prove that he can run his offense this way, since Nick Marshall left.
Yeah.
Right? And we were close with Jarrett Stidham. We were close with Jarrett because Jarrett had all the arm talent to run the offense that way. But the scheme didn't allow for it. And, if a Jarrett Stidham in a Chad Morris offense, it would have been ridiculous. I mean, Stidham, there was a joke in the NFL because Stidham threw for the most yards last year of any rookie in preseason ever. Right? He had I know that's not like a record that's going to go down in the record books. But the joke in the NFL circles is that they were surprised that we didn't ruin Stidham before he got to the NFL. Mm-hmm. That's the joke about Auburn quarterbacks. But it's not just quarterbacks. I'm telling you, it is a symptom of our offense as a whole that we underdeveloped talent. Right? So is that done? TBD on the running back coach and every other coaching position on offense, right? Was it really just a scheme or do we have a systemic problem with how we are developing players offensively, right? Schwartz is the fastest guy in college football.
Burns as a wide receiver coach. I've still never been sold on Cody as a great talent to coach that wide receiver skill. Cadillac is the running back coach right now. We'll see if he can actually teach talent or if he's just a talented guy, and that's going to be a big thing. It's going to be a big part of whether or not comes along.
Listen, I worked in that athletic department when Cadillac was a running back, so I'll refrain from saying anything inflammatory. But at the end of just because what I will say is just because you can play it doesn't mean you can coach it. Period. Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And so all the time in all sports. So yeah.
Right.
And one thing I can say about Lack is he can recruit.
Yeah. Listen,
he seems to recruit, but to your point, is to be determined if he can actually develop that talent.
Yeah, listen, he may be a player's coach, right? Guys will love him because he was a star back in our league. He's actually walked in their shoes. He went 5th in that NFL draft that year after we went undefeated. I mean, he did get on TV and embarrass us, saying, "Hey, you might have won the war, but the battle's not over." He said that to Ronnie, right? And so, to me, I'm like, am I the only one that remembers that? Right?
Yeah, I remember that.
I know you didn't want to get a microphone in front of him, but I didn't know he said that.
Yeah, I mean, it was embarrassing. It was on NFL Live. So, but my point is that look at conversely, if you look at the defensive side of the ball, we've got another former player coach in Travis Williams that played on that same squad with Cadillac, and he is burning up. He will be a defensive coordinator somewhere in the next 5 years, man. This guy is crazy at developing talent, man. And
hopefully he just stays put and learns this system. And then when our current DC decides he don't want to do it no more, he just kind of hand him the clipboard. But that's a long shot.
Man, you talking about a lot of money. I mean, they're going to pay Travis a lot of money to stick around for as long as they can, right? Because of what we're doing on defense. But again, I'm only pivoting to the defense to talk about we're seeing it happen on one side of the ball.
Right.
We just haven't seen it on our side of the ball at any position. And the biggest indictment on Cadillac to me was Boobie Whitlow's fumble problems. Right? When Whitlow got in the open field, man, he had fumbleitis, man. He could not hold on to that thing. It was like it was made of margarine. So I just need to see some consistency. B, you made a point about why backs don't start. Right, in Gus Malzahn's offense, blocking is the number one reason. If you don't know the protections, you'll get the quarterback killed in Gus's offense. Right? What I'm looking forward to seeing is an offense that's not completely reliant on that anymore. Right? 3-step drop and get the ball out of your hands.
Yeah,
so
I want to see a lot of that. We talked about that before the last game. I was like, that's what I really want. I want to see get it out of his hands quickly to playmakers. Let them make plays. Let the guys on the outside block. Do what you have to do. Help your offensive line by not having them have to pass pro for too long. Like, get the ball out. Let's keep the chains moving, right? All right. We can talk about the ills of Auburn for a while, but let's kind of pivot here and move into another portion where we preview some games that are coming up this week, and then we're going to preview our matchup with Georgia. So any game in particular you all want to start with? Let's start with the one that has absolutely nobody ranked in it. How about that? We'll
start with the trash.
Ole Miss versus Kentucky. So
that's not fair to Kentucky. That's not fair to Kentucky. They played great games.
It's absolutely fair. Their ranking is what it is. I didn't say they were both trash. I just said neither team is ranked.
Well, right.
Ole Miss versus Kentucky. We're familiar with one of these guys, of course, because we've played them already. Ole Miss had a game last week where they looked decent offensively.
They put up 37 plus points.
They could not stop a sneeze last week. Like, it was embarrassing defensively for them.
Yeah.
So what do we feel like is going to happen this week when Ole Miss and their newfound offense under Mr. Gamble It All, and he actually doesn't throw it as much as the other guy who we're going to talk about in a minute, but he definitely does throw the ball a lot. With their newfound offense traveling to Kentucky, what are we feeling about this game?
I'll tell you what I want to happen. I want Kentucky to crush them. And because
it looks good for us if Kentucky wins this game, absolutely.
Right. We had the marquee matchup of opening week in the SEC in the whole country, right? Like, Auburn, Kentucky was the highest rated two teams playing.
Which I think, once again, we will have the highest rated game that's going to be playing this weekend with us in Georgia. But
right. Yeah. Right. If Kentucky turns around and loses to Ole Miss, it takes the juice out of that, right? And because without a marquee non-conference game, which was supposed to be North Carolina this year, there are such things as good wins and bad losses, and in retrospect, we'll know which is which, right? But we need Kentucky to win this game, and if they play like they did against us, I feel like they should win it, right? I really do feel like they should win it.
So the question here that I have, and I do agree with you that we need Kentucky to win this game, is whether or not, and we've got somebody on here who says they feel like this is going to be a close game. The question for me is whether or not this is going to be a game of errors that keeps this a sloppy football game and low scoring, or is this going to be a shootout where it's going to be whoever has the ball last is what's going to, is it going to be like a 54-50 type of situation where they're just going up and down the field?
No, Kentucky's defense is going to have to show up if it's going to be a close game, because if you remember, that offense is really designed to control clock.
For sure.
And win your first, second downs, set it up so where your dual threat quarterback has most of the playbook. It's not we're going to score in 2 minutes type of offense like Lane wants to do. So if they can control what Lane likes to do, they can keep it close. But if they struggle, it could be over early.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think that's the key to it, is they're keeping it close early. Go, B. Will.
I was gonna say, but Ole Miss's defense is atrocious. So there's a very good chance that Kentucky could just inadvertently score a bunch of points because there's not gonna be anything to stop them. So I could see a 45-38 game easily. I could see a 38-31 game. Just because I don't think Kentucky has a better defense and better. They'll be able to do what they want to do, which is run the clock, run the ball, make some pass plays here and there. But honestly, I mean, Florida was just like, do we want to score a touchdown? Yes or no? Yes, here's a touchdown. And it's not that Florida doesn't have the talent. It's not that they don't have the coaches. Trask is now even more wise in the system than he was last year. So I expected them to be able to score, but not that much and not that easily. So, I think it's going to be.
This defense is clearly it's a little early in the season for me to believe that Florida is an offensive juggernaut. So I'm going to go and lean towards Ole Miss's defense is not that good. And so I do believe that we're going to see a game that's going to get into the 30s for both teams. And again, I want Kentucky to pull that out with the victory just because it looks better for us. So I think we're all in agreement on that. Anybody have any contrary point to that? Or if not, we're going to move on to the next game.
Let's move it.
All right. The other game that's closer to the end of the spectrum here is going to be Missouri going to face Tennessee. Tennessee, who actually has some high hopes this season, but looked very off and on in their
Shaky.
first game. Like their
Real
first
shaky.
game, they looked real shaky early. They played a lot better late. Missouri, I mean, I don't even know what Missouri has. They played Bama and got absolutely dismantled. So, like, I don't know if Missouri is just that bad or Bama is that good. And with it being Bama, you kind of lean towards that good. But yeah, I don't know. For me, I think this is an easy pick as well. I think Tennessee comes out of here with a victory. Does anybody feel any differently about this? Anybody want to call an upset and say Missouri's going to pull it out against Tennessee?
Nah, I mean, I have a thing with Jeremy Pruitt. Like, I just want him to fall on his face every morning when he gets up. But, other than that, I mean, Tennessee is they're one of those wait and see kind of teams, right? Like, it seems like over the last few years they come out, with lots of hope. It's kind of a traditional program, and then there's some blunder, and they play in the weak side of the conference too, right? So it's even more, baffling why they're not more consistently good. It's not a hard place to recruit to. At some point you feel like the talent gap will catch up there at Tennessee. Ever since the Lane Kiffin debacle, right? They've been kind of spiraling downwards.
That's going to be an interesting matchup when Ole Miss played. Oh, does Ole Miss and Tennessee play this year? I need to go look at. I need to see whether or not that's going to be a matchup on the schedule. I think that's going to be a storyline. But anyway,
they hate them in Knoxville. They hate them.
Yeah,
they hate them. So.
Every time Bama had to play them, I think they already hate losing to Bama anyway. But when Lane Kiffin was the offensive coordinator, it was that much worse. Now that they probably feel as if they have an opportunity to beat Lane Kiffin, if they hit the play this year against Ole Miss, that's going to be super fun.
They don't play him this year.
Oh man, I want to see that. I want to see that while he's still early in that process, so Tennessee can get a little. Not that I hate Lane Kiffin, but whatever. But yeah. So
well, listen, I think Tennessee will win. I think Tennessee will win. But listen, the way they've been, I wouldn't be surprised if they laid an egg here and lost this and found a way to lose this game.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised at all.
I mean, I think
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say they're gonna put up points. Oh, my bad, we delayed. All right, you go.
They're at best third in the East, which puts you at middle of the pack. SEC. Exactly. They're just middle of the pack.
Yeah.
They got a lot of hype, but at the end, they're probably going to be 8-4 at best, 7-5 likely.
In that too, because Garantano looked like he had turned the corner last year, and he came out in this first game, and again, he was just looking like it was. He had some plays where he looked amazing, and he had other plays where he looked terrible. And I'm just like, what is going on with Tennessee, man? Like, why can they not consistently be good for an entire season? Hopefully, they continue down that path because we can play them this year, whatever. Even if B-Well go.
Well, I was just gonna say, Garantano is really the reason they're not gonna be great. Like you said, Tennessee has actually recruited very well since Pruitt got there, and defensively, they're gonna be. I thought they'd be better defensively than to give up those points to South Carolina, but I mean, they have the promise because they have the tradition, and they've got the guy at coach that they think is going to be the guy. So that means that they've been getting the support from boosters to recruit. And if the boosters are excited, they're going to put money in. If you get money in, you're going to get the talent because you'll be able to recruit. So this is year 2 or 3 for Pruitt? This is 3, right? Because we played him his first year when they got us at home. Right. Oh, okay, that's 2017. So they've got enough talent to be better than they are. They don't have the quarterback because Garantano ain't it. They shuffled a couple guys last year. It didn't work out. I don't know if they got the quarterback on the roster. And as long as they have a shaky quarterback, they always can be beaten. I don't know from them playing South Carolina how good their defense actually is. And it's the first game. And I can't ever discount how much things are going to be in flux because we don't really know who anybody is until the middle of the season. And that's in a normal year. Right now, you start off playing comparable talent when nobody got the reps they usually get. I don't think we'll really know how good Tennessee is on defense, at least, maybe until the third or fourth week of the season. But offensively, they're always going to be shaky because they don't have a good quarterback. So they could win this game by 20, and they could also lose this game. And nobody has any idea what that's going to look like until that score goes final. So who knows? I expect them to win.
I'm
but
picking Tennessee to win this one going away. Hopefully,
They're gonna win easy, but they're still middle of the pack. Whatever.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Next game that no one is enthusiastic about either is going to be LSU at Vanderbilt. LSU, who lost their first game. I would like to recall everyone to hear me say once again that I have picked LSU to lose multiple games this season. Multiple. At least 3, maybe 4 this season. I'm saying LSU is going to lose. They're playing Vanderbilt. This will not be one of them.
Okay, fair enough. Concur. I will say, though, in that loss, they didn't look terrible last week. Mississippi State,
they looked bad defensively. They looked okay offensively, but defensively they looked like Mississippi State did not look like
the quarterback. I mean, this is a signature Mike Leach offense, right? Listen, we've seen this in the pack, right? We saw it at Texas Tech when he was there. Like, his quarterback threw for 623 yards, right?
That's normal.
Yeah, and that's normal in his offense because that's how they play. He will throw the ball 60 times a game if he has to. He did it at Washington State. He did it at Texas Tech. I just think, his quarterbacks generally set records for passing yards and passing attempts and passing completions. So this is going to be something new for the SEC this year. They're in the West. So you saw they had a meteoric climb up the rankings, right?
Well, we'll talk about Mississippi State.
Rank at all.
Is LSU trash or not? Is the question?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they're trash.
Yes, they are. You're correct.
But based on what they lost, they will have tough sledding in the SEC West this year, based on who's in the West this year. With Ole Miss, I mean, that's not an easy out for anybody. Listen, I like Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is an offensive genius, and I think that he did some good things while he was at Bama. Saban turned to him when he abandoned 3 yards in a cloud of dust. If anybody remembers, that was the guy that Saban turned to revolutionize his offense, right? So, with LSU, I don't think they'll lose to Vandy, but they lost a lot of talent to the NFL last year, and we'll see what Ed Orgeron, they gave him a bag. They gave him a bag after that national championship. So we'll see if that bag was worth it, or if they're in a Gus Malzahn type situation where you paid him and now we hope he does well because we paid him already. I
agree.
I think it's the latter.
One of the comments said that if Stingley's still out, this game is going to be. Is Stingley that much of a difference maker for their defense?
He's expected to play this week.
He is a great player. So let me start by saying I'm not saying Stingley is not amazing. Is he making that big of a difference for this defense, though? Do you insert a great cornerback into that defense and now all of a sudden they are a great defense or a decent defense?
I mean, he against Mississippi State because Mississippi State was throwing it all over the yard. Vanderbilt, it's not like they have a passing game or a quarterback to be feared. So I don't think a great player can make any team a little bit better. So sure, but Vanderbilt doesn't have enough offense. I don't see Stingley taking this from a 10-point loss to a 10-point win.
Quarterback though, is it like if he were a defensive end or a defensive lineman? Or even I just don't. Is a cornerback a revolutionary position for a defense? Shutting down half of the field. Is he like a
wide receiver? Yeah. If you're playing against a team that likes to throw against a great talent at wide receiver that makes defenses have to adjust to that talent, then sure. But that's just not the case this weekend.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
At any rate, if you could take away a dynamic from a team completely. And then Stingley is that kind of player, right? Then you force the other team to be one-dimensional, which makes your defensive scheme a lot easier when you don't have to worry about this whole side of the field, right? And then test them at your peril.
Ed Reed's a safety, though. I want to say that. Like the guy said, ask Ed Reed. Safety is still different to me. I just feel like, Deion Sanders and what's the other guy?
Reeves?
Daryl Reeves, like those are the kind of guys that shut down half of the field, but the rest of their defense wasn't trash. Like you're not talking about like Deion Sanders is probably the only example we've seen where you insert him into a defense and it's a difference maker, right? Like he took decent defenses to be elite defenses. I don't know that Daryl Reeves did that for the Jets. The Jets already had playmakers all over the field on that defense. Ed Reed is a game changer, but the Baltimore Ravens defense was amazing. You put Ed Reed on another team, does he? I don't know. Well, anyway, that's not relevant. I do think Stingley is a difference maker. I just don't know if he's that big of a difference maker where it's like, okay, now they're an elite defense. And again, they don't need him to beat Vanderbilt. I'm sorry. Vanderbilt's just not that talented. So, it is what it is. All right, moving on to the next game that is, we're going to get a little more interesting, but not so much. We're going to talk a little Mike Leach again. So Arkansas, who looked early okay against Georgia, they faltered late and listen, we were on the phone talking about this because I did not realize that they had the transfer quarterback from Florida. What's the kid's name?
Felipe Franks.
Felipe Franks. I didn't realize Felipe Franks was at Arkansas until I turned the game on later, and then he threw a pass. I was like, oh, Felipe Franks. I was like, oh, he's going to mess up soon. And literally the next play, he threw a pick. So I'm sorry if you are a Felipe Franks fan out there. I am not a fan. Like
there are none.
No, right.
He's got all the arm talent in the world, and he can make some amazing plays. He just makes so many boneheaded mistakes at court. I just can't put my faith in an offense run by Felipe Franks. I just can't. Now, and then you add to that Mississippi State with this new revamped offense that's coming into town that's going to be slinging it all over the field. I don't know if Arkansas is going to be put up more than 10 points in this game. It's going to be like 55-10.
Yeah, I agree. Mississippi State big. Arkansas is trash. I hope they lose every game from now until 2030.
Make sure children are not watching this game. It's going to be ugly.
The only fan of Felipe Franks is Felipe Franks and his mom. Maybe his mom.
Man.
I hear Florida fans like him a lot more now, but I don't know if that means anything.
Yeah, I'm not buying the Felipe Franks hype. I'm sorry. Again,
there's none.
If Felipe happens to tune into this, you can call me any name you want to, bro. I couldn't do any better at quarterback. I'm just saying, look, come on, cuz. All right. Anybody else want to say anything about this other than Arkansas is going to do?
Mississippi State big.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Moving right along, then. Let's go to another matchup that's going to feature a top 10 team, but the opponent is not top 10. Florida at South Carolina. So we've got Will Muschamp, former defensive coordinator for Florida, going back to play Florida.
Former head coach.
Oh, Florida head coach. You're right. Yeah. So he has been head coach for Florida and now coaching at South Carolina. Not his first time playing there, so I don't want to overdo that storyline. But Florida, we talked about them earlier and how they looked against their competition. Put up a ton of points, also gave up a ton of points. South Carolina looked okay. I mean, they didn't look terrible, but, at the end of the day, nothing to write home about South Carolina. Wasn't a big South Carolina believer before this game. Definitely didn't change my mind after the game. What are we feeling about this one?
I feel we need to do a top 5 list of coaches on the hot seat because Muschamp is on it.
If Muschamp is not on the hot seat, I quit. So let's be real. South Carolina is just trying to get anybody to come coach their team. It's not like they're a top program where coaches are like, you know what? Let's go to South Carolina because they're in the SEC and I want to lose a bunch of games. Right?
It's where coaches go. Is where coaches go to see if they still got it. Like they had Lou Holtz, they had Spurrier, Muschamp. Let's see if I can do it. Like they experiment coaching over there. So
yeah, they could probably land, some kind of ricochet guy that went to the NFL and didn't work out and came back to, but I just don't see how they're going to have any success in this game. I'm just not. Now, Muschamp is good to give you one game that he was not supposed to get.
I was just going to thank you. One.
Listen, this could be it. Now,
it could be. It could be.
My vote is Georgia, but
hot take alert, right? Remember I said last week that Florida was my team that I felt like was a little overrated, in these rankings, right? Not sold on Trask. We have a comment here. Hard to argue that the big tight end at Florida, big time mismatch for South Carolina to deal with. Agreed. Like, I think that
he's going to be hard for anybody to deal with all year.
Yeah, offensively, there are mismatches all over the field, right? But Muschamp always gives
I don't know.
one, right? Like, and I'm not 100% sold on Trask. Like, I don't know that what we saw last week is, there's maybe 2 easier games that Florida could have got to open week 1 in the SEC, right? Like Vandy and Missouri, maybe. Those are the only other teams that could have played that have been worse than Ole Miss in week 1, and so South Carolina, there's not a lot to be afraid of there, but their program has had some semblance of continuity. I'm not willing to call Florida big in this one with any confidence. I think they'll win it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a blowout game. I do think that Kyle Pitts he's a problem and a half at tight end. Like, the kid he's huge. He's got good mobility. He's got great hands. Like, he's going to be a problem for everybody this year.
Right.
But yeah, but again, South Carolina is one of the most unpredictable teams in our conference because the only other team that is as unpredictable as South Carolina for pulling off a victory in college football is Oklahoma for losing a game they're not supposed to.
Right.
Like, they're literally the antithesis of one. Oklahoma's supposed to win a bunch of games, and they're definitely going to drop a game they're not supposed to. They have already done it this year. South Carolina is the exact opposite. They're going to win a game they're not supposed to. They beat Georgia last year. They weren't supposed to win that game. Nobody picked South Carolina to beat Georgia, and they did.
Right.
So they're going to come up with one, and they're going to give their fans all this hope that, we've turned the corner, and they are going to crap the bed the rest of the season, just like they do every other year.
Yeah.
You can bank on that.
Will Muschamp's teams are always offensively inept for some. Let's be
He's
right.
a defensive coach. He needs to be a defensive coordinator.
Right. Like, he needs to find an offensive coach. Like, he clearly has issues identifying offensive coaching talent, right? And then letting go.
Nobody wants to go to South Carolina. Who wants?
Yeah.
The only chance he had was to possibly get. What's the guy's name that is at Miami now? Was in the Gus Malzahn.
Lashley, yeah.
He could have got maybe a Rhett Lashley to come be his OC. Like, that would have been like a good hire for him because Lashley's actually a decent offensive coordinator. But nobody wants to go coach at South Carolina.
Well,
Lashley
and more importantly,
offensive coordinator. He is.
More importantly, nobody wants to go play quarterback at South Carolina.
Look at Lashley's offenses that he's put out there on the field, and you tell me that he hasn't put up some high scoring.
He's in the ACC. It was Florida State. So everybody can score on them at this point.
Again, I'm not talking about just this season. I'm talking about he had his previous stops as well. I said he's decent.
I'm happy for him.
In no world am I calling Rhett Lashley an offensive genius. I said he's that would be a decent South Carolina hire.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I'm not going to get into weeds with you on Lashley. It's personal with me and him. I may have sent him some hate mail the last season he was at Auburn, but listen, South Carolina just doesn't have enough on offense to win this game. I think, right? I think that Florida has weapons. Their quarterback got some good experience last year. He looked sharp for the most part last week throwing the ball, and South Carolina's gonna have to put up points. That's not South Carolina's hallmark. I think the only way that South Carolina ends up winning this game is if they can win the turnover battle big. Right? Short field, maybe a defensive score or two. That's the only way they stay in this.
Agreed. All right, let's get on to the next one. This is the first ranked versus ranked matchup we have here. Texas A&M goes to Alabama. I got to turn my cup around the other side when we start talking about Alabama.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to start talking about this one?
Brian wants to start.
All right, fine. So, Jimbo Fisher is the used car salesman of the SEC.
I knew it. I knew it. That's why I picked
Um,
Brian.
he is overrated as a coach. The only reason they won, and this is not salt about him beating us in the national championship game. The talent on that Florida State team that won that national championship game was unreal. They had a lot of guys go to the league that are still in the league now, 7 years later. So that's a testament to the type of talent that they sent. We're not talking one contract guys. We're talking 2, 3 contract guys. So he got lucky. He did not. He did what Ed Orgeron is going to do, which is win one and be a middling coach for the rest of his tenure at whatever school. Right now it's A&M, and for
maybe South
Orgeron it's
Carolina will
LSU.
hire Orgeron after a couple seasons of in that LSU. Anyway, sorry.
Hey, but yeah, but so what is going to be apparent here? He has gotten the talent at Texas A&M because again he came after Kevin Sumlin, and they said, "Oh, national championship winning coach." And then he got the talent, he got the boosters excited. They put in the money, and he's been getting the guys. He's been top 5 recruiting. And well, the first big thing is Kellen Mond is a mediocre quarterback. Period.
Thank you.
It doesn't.
I'm
It
glad
does
you
not
got to
matter.
that.
Nothing else matters as long as you have a mediocre quarterback. I'm not terribly worried about you unless you got an all-world defense. But honestly, they don't. So Texas A&M does not scare me. They do not. They should not scare anybody. Alabama is going to beat them badly. Definitely first half blowout, and then the rest of the game. Well, I'll take that back. Jimbo kind of plays up for people every now and then. So when he was getting beaten by Clemson at Florida State, he made it competitive for a little bit, and then Clemson just ran away with it. So maybe it'll be that. Maybe he can get his guys up for this game, and they'll be competitive for a half, and then Bama will pull away. If not, Bama's going to get up early, big, and then they'll kind of give some of the lead back over the course of the game because apparently that's what they do now. But I don't expect this to be much of a game, an actual competitive game at all. I don't.
Yeah, I'm actually astonished. Like I'm astonished that Texas A&M is still ranked this high. Like I'm not a Texas A&M. I'm not believing in them. They're not a top 25 team to me, and they did not prove that last week. So
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
Kellen Mond has to make plays to beat Bama. He won't.
Okay. Fair.
Right.
All right. Is it my turn yet? Can I go?
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. So I want to tell a little story about Jimbo Fisher, and even though I don't think that they will win, I'm not on the same train as you guys in terms of how badly they'll get beat. But I'll tell you why I want them to win this game. Besides the obvious fact that it's Bama, really, really long time ago, Jimbo Fisher was supposed to be the next coach at UAB. The Alabama Board of Trustees blocked that deal because you can't have anything overshadowing the great University of Alabama, right? So, Jimbo's, career took some turns. He ended up at Florida State. They ended up with a national title. UAB ends up having their football program literally canceled in a scandal, right? It's back. And now Jimbo is back, and he's been wanting to get to the SEC for a while, right? So now, Texas A&M backed up the Brinks truck, man. They dumped all the cash on his front lawn to come coach there. He has got unlimited resources. I mean, Florida State's, a decent sports school, right? But let's be real. Texas A&M is oil money. It's old money. Like they were a great addition, in terms of accreditation, and they add a lot to the SEC, right? So I'm very happy to have them as an institution in our conference. And what I think here is that Jimbo has. I think he is. I agree with B. He is a little overrated as a coach, but I think they have a chance in this game. Now, Caesar noted, Kellen Mond is going to have to play well, and he may not, right? But
he's another one of those guys. He's due for one game. Like every year against Clemson, for whatever reason, wakes up and he decides he wants to play quarterback again. He doesn't get to play Clemson this year. Maybe this is the
Right.
game that he does it. We'll see.
Because of where this game is on the schedule, if this game were at Kyle Field, I would call the upset this week. But because it's at Bama, I can't call it at Bryant-Denny. But I do think that Texas A&M is going to surprise us a little bit. On Saturday. So
I hope with you, but
I'm timid about my prediction, right? But I think that Bama is Bama. I think again, what we saw from them in the Iron Bowl last year, in the absence of Tua, told me that they were going to be formidable again this year. And they lost some big time talent to the NFL too. But I don't know if y'all saw Jalen Waddle play Saturday.
Yeah,
but he is video game good.
He's a blur.
Right, and he did that.
You mean the guy who torched our secondary last year?
4 touchdowns against us. Yeah, the Iron Bowl. Yeah,
that Waddle. Yeah.
He had 3 last week, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was all over the place catching touchdowns, and he had 1 taken away from him. Right, so he almost had 4. He had 3, but he almost had 4. 1 was they reviewed it, and I guess he was out at the 10-yard line or something. So I think Texas A&M. My eyes are gonna be on this game. I'm going to watch this game, right? I think that this is gonna be a lot more interesting than people think. And I'm interested to see, because we didn't really get to see what Bama was. I thought that Matt Jones did a serviceable job stepping in for Tua, and I know Bama fans didn't like the outcome, but all things considered, he played a great game against Auburn in that Iron Bowl. I thought he played admirably and acquitted himself well. And then what we saw this past weekend was he's got a lot of chemistry with these wide receivers that are still there. He threw some great balls, and he seems like he's a solid quarterback. Based on how he played, I would mark him much higher than I would mark our own quarterback. So, I would say, they should win this game, but I'm excited to see if Bama is what they looked like last week, and I think that Texas A&M will help show. I think they're good enough to help show us that, right? Either they're the real deal. If they get blown out, it won't be because Texas A&M is trash. I think it'll be because Bama is just that good. But I'm hoping this game will show us which is which, right?
Good thermostat game, or a good thermometer game, I should say. So
absolutely.
We'll see how it goes. All right. Now we're done talking about all those other teams. Screw them. Let's get to the game we really care about.
Yeah.
Number 7 Auburn going to visit Deep South's oldest rivalry, being renewed at a very odd time of the season. Game number 2, Georgia. Who wants to start? I'm gonna start with Caesar on this one. Caesar, what you feeling about this game?
I'm hoping for first half Georgia of last week to show up early and often in this game. I'm pretty sure they're going to be up for us just because of it's the Deep South oldest rivalry. So they'll be ready to play. But the element of surprise, I think they really are not sure how to defend this offense now. And I'm looking for us to, with good play from Bo Nix, take advantage of the element of surprise of throwing some things at Georgia they've never seen before. Again, I alluded to the fact that Seth Williams caught 6 balls, could have been 7 because he dropped that pass last week. Targeting him early and often. Was even able to open up, throw the ball to some other people. Capers, I think he caught a pass over the middle, I think. I'm looking to see other people get involved in the offense this week, take advantage of Georgia trying to key in on Seth Williams. I'm hoping to Mike's point, as he alluded, I want to see Bo Nix keep his composure when they take away our first option and to see his development. I think this is the week we determine whether or not Bo is actually going to grow. Is he growing in this offense or not? Or is he the same kid just in a new scheme, right? So this is going to tell us a lot.
Yeah,
I'm homering it out. I'm saying he grows up this week.
You got a score prediction you want to throw out there?
Yes.
We'll come
yes,
back. I'll
you
let
do.
you think about that.
I
I'll let you
want
think
to.
about it.
Yeah. Give back to me.
Yeah. Before we
No.
close.
24-20. The good guys. Auburn.
24-20. All right. B. Will, how you feeling?
It's so many unknowns, man. We don't know. Our run game ain't worked out yet. Their quarterback position isn't worked out yet. They had a kid come in and play well the second half of that game, but it was Arkansas, so you have no idea if he's good or not. It's not like the kid himself was the key because they started running the ball really well in the second half as well. I still don't know what Georgia looks like on defense because they haven't played a competent offense, even though we know they have defensive talent. And I mean, it's a bunch of question marks. But to Caesar's point, I don't think you can fix everything wrong with Bo in 1 week. If he felt pressure from Kentucky and that flushed him out of the pocket and reverting him back to old habits of not reading, just reacting, then I'm sure that Georgia can do that too. They've got tape on Clemson. They played Clemson when Chad Morris was there. I'm sure they've been looking through SMU tape and Clemson tape to see what Chad Morris does. But there's also a good amount of surprise that we have. We have the element of surprise as well, because do you prepare for what you've seen from Gus for the last 3 years, or do you prepare for what you've seen from Chad Morris for the last 3 years? We haven't used our tight ends more than, I don't know, 10 times over the last season and a half. So if we have a lot of things we can do that Georgia has not seen, would not be prepared for because we've never done it with this personnel. So we can definitely tack on 14 cheat points from that alone. You know what I'm saying? But man, I don't trust us at Georgia. I just don't. I don't trust us at Georgia. Is Chad Morris the difference? Reactionary thing. So if I had to pick it, I think it would be a close game either way. I'd say 23-20 either way. And I really don't know. Like it could be 23-20 Auburn. It could be 23-20 Georgia.
Nah, you got to give us something. Who
Nah,
wins?
Brian.
Who wins? Who
Don't
wins?
Man,
hedge
chill
your
out.
bets,
Hold on,
son.
chill
Don't
out.
hedge your bets.
All right. I'm going to say Auburn, man. I'm going to say we win 23-20.
23-20. Mike G, talk to us. What you got? 24-20 and 23-20. Very close game predictions from those two. What you got?
Okay, so Brian kind of stole my thunder a little bit in talking about how
Great minds, man.
what do you prepare for, right? Like, what do you prepare for in this game? Do you prepare for the Chad Morris offenses that you saw last week and of old? I think that would be a mistake on Georgia's part, personally, right? Because the talent is a lot different that he has to work with, and like Brian said, because he kind of took some of my talking points. We are still figuring some things out in the run game. They're trying to figure some things out at quarterback. Ultimately, I think that I hate that we're on the road in this game. Playing between the hedges has just not been very kind to us. But if I'm to believe that Bo Nix has arrived, then I have to pick Auburn, right, to win this game. And conditionally speaking, if what we saw in the second half against Kentucky is the Bo Nix is going to show up for this game, Auburn by 2 touchdowns, right? That's what I believe. If we can throw the ball effectively and he can make decisions and he cannot do anything, he doesn't do anything boneheaded off the back of his foot, and he gets down and just throws it out of bounds when he needs to. He throws the ball away. Throw the ball away. That is one of my biggest pet peeves on offense, right? Like, before you make a bad throw, trying to be the hero, just throw the ball away and let's live to fight another day, because you have a defense that can go out and first force turnovers and get you the ball back, right? Like, unless it's absolutely necessary and the game is on the line. That's what I said to you when we were talking about it. I was like, why did he make that throw there? It was so unnecessary, right? Like, the game wasn't on the line. There was no reason to make that throw. Now, he completed it, but it was a complete toss-up jump ball, and a better athlete could have recovered. He completed that ball to Seth Williams, and it would have been a disaster. And when you play good teams, those turnovers can be the difference in the game. I think that we need to win the turnover battle to win this game. Now, I know that sounds kind of cliche, but Georgia's got talent all over the place, and we are on the road. But the thing that makes me nervous, right, and I'll give you a score here in 60 seconds, right? The thing that makes me nervous is Bo on the road. Now, again, they're going to be playing against reduced crowds, so the crowd may not be as much of a factor. But, I mean, his completion percentage at one point late last season was around 28% on the road. Just abysmal. Like, he is the worst outside of Auburn, right? And if they have fixed that, I think we can – I mean, listen, if they can fix that, I like Auburn 35-21. Right,
35 points. That's a big number.
Yeah, I we can put up 35 in this game if the right Bo Nix shows up and this Chad Morris offense is for real. Like, yeah, let me put it this way: if we lose this game and we're not talking about offense, blowing it, I don't care what the score is. Right? Like, I just want to see. We just have to be willing to accept that this team is not a world beater team. And if they can find a way to win a close one on the road early in the season against your second biggest rival, I'll accept whatever score, right? As long as we do not lose due to offensive ineptitude, that's what I'm looking for here. Can this new look offense look competent against a talented team, right? Competent. Right, and competent to me would be I'll take either one of Caesar or Brian's scores and call that competent. If we're moving the ball and they get timely stops, I will even accept a turnover from Bo against a team like Georgia. I don't expect him to be perfect. I know I'm really hard on him, but like I don't expect perfection from him. I just expect him to play well enough to keep us in it. And it's got to, when you play a team like Georgia, it's got to be a team win. This game has to be a team win, right? So defense needs to play well. I'm not expecting much from our running game. So I think that our short passing game, if Bo can, I don't know if you guys noticed last week, he was hitting receivers in stride. That was one of the biggest improvements I saw. It wasn't just about completing passes. Because last year against Oregon, he threw the game-winning touchdown pass, but it was an awful throw. And the receiver adjusted, used his body to shield the defender, right, and brought in a catch that wasn't drawn up that way. And he did it the same way he's been doing it all season, last season, throwing it off his back foot. So no wonder it came up short, right? So it's not like he threw the receiver back into the play. It's not what happened, right? And we saw a little of that old Bo last week. And I just don't want to see any of that versus Georgia. So if it's 3-step drop, one read, 2 read, jump off to the back or, take that second or third option and he looks like he's making decent decisions. And, I believe he'll turn the ball over on this game just by virtue of playing a team that has playmakers on defense. I think that they'll take one. Whether it be a sack fumble or interception, like somebody will make a great play on the ball and we'll have some turnovers in this game. But if Bo shows up and I'm not hedging my bets here, I'm calling the game 35-21 because my hope is that Bo second half versus Kentucky is going to show up in this game and we'll be able to do enough things offensively. And remember what I said last week, right? That the defense, this defense we were looking for will give the offense a short field, right? Like you guys gave them more points than I gave them last week because I just felt like we don't know what we have on defense, but I believe the defense will give them a short field. But if this is more of the same, we'll get a touchdown and a field goal from Gus and company. And then the defense will gift us a touchdown on a short field. Well, it happened twice last week, where the defense came up big, and if they can do those same sorts of things this week, 35 points against Georgia is not a stretch. I don't think that's a stretch. Okay. So 35-21 Auburn.
All right, I'm gonna give you my score right off the top, and I'm gonna tell you how I arrived at that score. I'm gonna say that Auburn doubles up Georgia 16-32.
Okay.
16-32. Let me tell you how I figure this.
All right.
Georgia's run game, which is the thing that gave us the most fits against Kentucky, I don't think is as good as Kentucky's because they don't have the dynamic if they're going to play a quarterback that can run the ball, then if they're going to put what the guy's name was that played at the beginning of the game last week for Georgia, Mathis. If Mathis is going to be the guy that's playing, I'm not really worried about him running the ball just because I don't think he can throw the ball to hit the broadside of a barn. If they're going to have a guy who's going to be a better thrower of the ball, but he's not a dynamic running threat, then that makes them more one-dimensional, and we're going to have to be able to see them give the ball on the ground to running backs to actually be that product. I don't really fear teams that can only run the ball, and Georgia didn't prove they could do that particularly well last week against Arkansas. It was kind of hit or miss. They did better in the second half, but it wasn't just this dynamic run threat that you are used to seeing from Georgia. So they don't scare me in their run game. Their offense doesn't scare me overall because I feel like we have a better defense to be able to deal with a lessened Georgia offense. So I'm going to give Georgia 16 points just off of the fact that I do feel like you're going to see Auburn get a turnover in this game at some point in time, and they're going to have a short field, give up a touchdown for that. The rest of it I feel like is going to be field goals. Outside of that, I do feel like this Auburn offense is real. I do think that we can throw the ball. I think Arkansas did a good job of throwing the ball against this Georgia defense. They just happen to have Felipe Franks as their quarterback. We don't have Felipe Franks as our quarterback. Now, Bo Nix has not been a stellar quarterback on the road all year. Last year, we don't know what he's going to be like this year. I believe Bo Nix in a better offense that suits his abilities a little bit better this year, and Bo Nix in a more confident role going in there is going to be able to put up enough points because I think that our defense is going to consistently get him the ball back and allow us to do that. So I'm going to guess that we're going to put up 32 points against Georgia's 16, doubling them up, giving us a 32-16 score. That's how I feel.
All right, so I just want to point out that's pretty much the same prediction I made.
Yeah, yours was 35-21. We're really close. Yeah. They were very close in theirs, which was 2023, 2024. We're close on ours, so we have a diametric situation.
We have to acknowledge Ike won the score prediction game last week.
Yeah, I missed it by 2 points last week.
Yeah, you did.
And so I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen in this game. Of course, I'm an Auburn fan. I've seen us squander games that we should have won. I've seen us, get big leads against LSU and let them come back and win the game in the second half. Again, I'm putting my faith in the fact that I think Chad Morris has changed the dynamic of how we play offense enough that it's not going to put us in a hole or put us in a situation where we have a big lead and we're going to get comfortable. So I feel like this game is actually going to be, going into the half, probably a 6-point game. I could say 6 points either way, honestly. We might be down 6, we might be up 6, but I think that by the end of this game, we will win by 16.
You brave, man.
Thank you.
The defense gets turnovers. I don't think that, again, if the defense gets turnovers, I don't think that's a stretch, right? And we see what we saw, against. That's why I don't know what time some of these games are, but I'm really going to have my eye on Kentucky. Kick. Okay, I'm really going to have my eye on Kentucky Ole Miss, right? And see what Lane Kiffin is able to do against Kentucky's defense, because I think that will give me some gauge of what to expect going into this game versus, Georgia offensively. Bo is it, man. Like I said, Gus has hung his whole career at Auburn on Bo Nix's arm.
Yeah.
So if this doesn't work, I know B hates this statement, but I don't trust. I trust that Gus Malzahn will go down with the ship before he makes the tough decision to pull Bo. Before our season goes in the tank, right? And my gold standard for pulling a
I was
talented
about to say, I
quarterback.
don't know that B. Will is going to disagree with this, but it's the next statement that you're about to make. About
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right, like the gold standard for in-game adjustments that I've ever seen was, Saban pulling his quarterback at halftime in the national championship game and putting in a freshman, and then the freshman throws the game-winning touchdown in overtime, 40 yards, right? Like a strike, and I mean, that quarterback now was a top 5 pick in the NFL draft last year,
right.
And the quarterback that left his team after that, right, took his team to the playoff. So he had talent, and what was I always want to call him Blake Sims, but it's not Blake Sims. What was his name?
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Listen. Jalen Hurts is a class act. He handled all that with grace, and he deserved to the success that he had at Oklahoma. I mean, he was in the Heisman talk the entire season. His numbers were so good, and I have been envious of these schools who their coaches can say, you know what, this isn't going great. Like Georgia last week, they're winning, but this is not the standard that we have at Georgia offensively. So
none of those
guys,
that's definitely not the same situation. None of those guys were good though. Like
right. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no, I definitely get you. I just don't want to bring
this first game of the season. Yeah, it's first game of the season, right? And they're willing to pull, right? And we have just not seen that from Gus at all, ever, right?
Yeah,
He's terrible.
Well, I don't know that the number 2 guy has ever been a Tua type.
Right. That's the difference. We have never had a generational quarterback on the bench.
Yeah. Listen, but it's not. But in their case,
guy that's been a winner in Jalen Hurts.
And in their case, though, both quarterbacks were pretty much generational. Right?
No,
like
I agree.
When talent is even,
gutsy call. I'm just saying.
What I'm saying is,
been in the position to make this kind of decision.
No, but it doesn't matter if the guys are world beaters. If the talent is even, right? And
that's what I'm saying. I don't think the talent's been even. I don't think it's been even. Like
between Gatewood and Knicks,
I still have yet to see Gatewood throw a pass in a real game that matters.
Whose fault is that, though? That's what I'm talking about. We never get to see it because Gus will never.
My point is this.
That's why Gatewood left.
Let me see him do it in a game, and then I'll blame Gus for not putting him in the game because
you can't
Gus might be right.
But we can't because we can't say that now because he left.
I absolutely can
because he left.
But he's at a team that needs a quarterback because
any development that he's had, Gus can't claim any share in that development, right? Like I'm just saying,
who developed Tua to make him the guy who could come in and replace Jalen?
I think. Listen, it wasn't about
Nick Saban.
Tua came in that guy, but that's my point. My point is that like on the level of talent that we've had at quarterback, right? Like we were kind of going back and forth with what was the guy that we had where we're like, man, if Gus isn't going to let him throw, Gatewood Frazier.
I hope not. God, I hope not.
Listen, he made my point for me, right? Kyle Frazier, and he was a 5-star coming out of high school. He was Hollywood, he was Mr. Football, right? And he ended up being the biggest bust head case, but we ruined Kyle Frazier.
Again,
we ruined Kyle Frazier.
You will get zero debate from me about how good Gus is.
We ruined Kyle Frazier just like we ruined every other quarterback that came in and around that time other than Cam, right? And
again, I don't think
all the good quarterbacks we've had have been JUCOs, right?
I'm not going to debate you on his ability to develop talent. Jeremy Johnson didn't pan out to be anything. Kyle Frazier didn't pan out to be anything.
But if both struggled,
Woody Barrett wasn't anything.
Right. If Bo struggles, I guess, okay, so let me move away from the quarterbacks and just say if Bo struggles, what's the backup plan? Because all these other top-tier coaches seem to have a contingency. What is ours?
So
go ahead.
The reason why I can't go there with you is because it's not even about contingency. Like, we have to be able to show that the quarterback is going to be somebody who can be a top caliber guy. The reason why Tua was able to go to Alabama is because they had Lane Kiffin there as the offensive coordinator, who convinced him it's not going to be the same old offense where you're just going to be running the ball. He showed and proved that by getting who's the guy that you just said that you keep wanting to call his name instead of Jalen Hurts. No, instead of Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Oh,
Blake Sims.
Blake Sims.
So he proved that the first year when he had Blake Sims there, that we can throw the ball up and down the field. Tua was like, oh, okay, well, this ain't just talk. I've seen it on the field. Gus has yet to prove it on the field to any quarterback recruit. What quarterback recruit in their right mind comes to play under Gus Malzahn?
No, okay, so that's fair. I'm with you on that. I'm just saying, but that's that's more of an indictment on Gus, right?
Again, no disagreement.
That furthers my point, right? Like, again, I'm tired of going into these big games with zero contingency if Bo doesn't do well, right? Like, this is what worries me about this game, and that's why I'm saying, like, that's why in my score prediction, I'm putting out the caveat: if Bo is serviceable, we should be able to score 35 points with this defensive scheme and the talent that we have around him. We got the fastest guy in college football. We got a dog at wide receiver, right, that plays with an edge. You've got other talent around you. The offensive line did a decent job last week. If they make improvements from game 1 to game 2, scoring 35 points on what we saw last week should not be a stretch. It just shouldn't. And if we struggle, I would just like to see that our coach can say, you know what, like, we saw some things on film, even though we won the game, and Bo did an okay job that he needs to work on. And part of the motivation for these guys is that, you know what, if I don't play well, I can get pulled. Right?
Yeah, but listen, y'all know, man. Gus is
too stubborn.
If it was Chad Morris that was in charge of offensive personnel, then maybe we'd have something. When we had a guy, a redshirt freshman in Gatewood, who we know had been through a couple camps, we know he had gotten reps, at least splitting reps in the fall camp before Bo started last year, and Bo looked absolutely terrible at LSU, at Florida, and against Georgia at home. And he didn't even, like, there wasn't even any question. Like, there was never a point outside of it being a blowout where Gatewood even got up and started warming up. So, no, he's going to ride with Bo. And I'm sure it's some type of, like, behind the scenes, his dad. I'm sure that's part of it. And I'm also sure that a portion of it is also how they want to position Bo to look to have success. If we start doing some winning and he's swapping Bo in and out, then you don't have a Heisman candidate. But if we start doing some winning and you kept the guy at the forefront, then you can say, oh, look at his numbers. He beat Georgia. He beat Alabama. He's got to be in the conversation the same way we looked when Carry-On had a really good season. He's putting up those numbers and making those plays, and he's making the highlights. So you've got somebody you can put front and center to represent your program. Right. They want that to be Bo. So they're going to leave him there, good or bad. They're never going to get rid of Bo Nix. It's never going to happen. Let's just hope that he's good enough to where we don't think he should be benched. If he's not good enough to win a close game this weekend against a team where we have a shot, then, guys, it's going to be the same thing as last year.
Can we put the comment back up? I think it was a really interesting comment here I want to address. I think the argument with Bo is different than the other names in the debate. Nix has a lot on his shoulders. I give zero craps about that. He knows that Auburn's bets heavy on his results, right? Like, welcome to the SEC, right? Like, I mean, starting quarterback.
That's the quarterback SEC position.
Yeah, everybody's carrying that same weight at schools that have at schools that have national championship expectations, right?
No,
like,
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying what to his point, I think, is that it's a little bit different because of the legacy aspect as far as like what he personally feels as the weight. There's not a lot of guys walking onto a field on a team that has national championship aspirations that's also a legacy quarterback. Like, that's just a whole other layer of, like, your dad is this legend at the school and you have to live. Like, imagine what Shedrick Jackson would feel like if he were a running back at Auburn.
Right.
Like, it's not his dad, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that. Like, I don't think the average fan thinks about that. I mean, and he may feel that, but that's where Gus comes in, right? And but this conversation is not as much about Knicks as it is about Gus,
Correct.
right? Like will Gus see what's there, right? And say, you know what, the weight of all what you just said is crushing you right now. We need to reset. But for now, what's best for the team is that we need to bench you, and we need a change of pace right in the game. And that's what worries me is that the guy who's in the number 2 spot, we've seen nothing from. We haven't seen a spring. Like, we barely knew his name kind of going into the season. So like I just want to know, or God forbid, what if Bo gets hurt? Right? Like, what do we do then? Is our season completely down the tubes? Because I'm telling you, at these other schools, it's not. Right, like it just seems to be next man up at a lot of these schools. Like
about Georgia.
I agree. I agree with the point Mike's making. A good example of this is when we played Florida last year. Right?
Yeah,
Florida was able to put someone in, and they were moving the offense.
He looked better. Right? He looked better. Right.
So the thing is, can Gus do that? But Gus just stays with whoever he's going with no foresight of thinking this guy could get hurt, he could play a bad game, and if so, who can we put in to get a different change of pace and actually move the ball and actually get some rhythm going? Gus has never done that.
Right. Yeah. So again, to these 2 comments that he just made, in closing, I just want to make sure we appreciate the comments. Yeah, we appreciate the comments. Everybody who's watching is still commenting. But can we put the comments back up? He said, at the end of the day, if Knicks balls out, there's no problem. That's where my 5-point prediction comes from. If he balls out, 14-point victory minimum, right? But and I agree with the second comment that he made. So it all seems like it's in Bo's hands, because if we're to believe that the system is no longer the issue, it really is in Bo's hands, right? Like, I mean, we kind of cut all these quarterbacks a pass over the years because of Gus's play calling or the scheme or, the development. Right. And these things are no longer a problem, and it really is just on the players, right? Then, you know what? The decision to pull him should be even easier.
Right.
If it's true on the players, the decision to pull him should be easier. And I think that, again, what you're seeing in Alabama and some of these other schools, they're confident in their system. So if you're not performing, put the next guy in.
Yeah, because I got 5 stars everywhere. How could it not be you? If I've got first round talent all around you, can you imagine if Tua wasn't producing? It's easy. It's the same thing with Jalen, though, which is why I don't give Saban credit for that pool. It's like when you're doing nothing in the first half, it's a national championship game. There are no more games to be played after this, and we are losing and looking bad on offense. What choice is there? You can't do worse than Jalen's done the first half. Go ahead.
You would think, but a lot of coaches wouldn't make that move. A lot of coaches wouldn't pull their starter that's already won a national title, right, and has only lost a game, right? Like, in the biggest game of the season, a lot of coaches would go down with that ship. So that's not specific to Gus, right? I'm just saying, it would be nice if this year we didn't feel like the entirety of our season rested on Bo Nix's hands, right? Like, because I'm not sold on Bo. I hope that he balls out. I hope he does well, because if he does well, Auburn does well, and we don't have to have this discussion anymore. And you know what? If he has a big game on the road against Georgia, albeit against 10 fans in the stands, I will get off Bo Nix's case for the rest of the season, right? But he was so awful last year on the road. Outside of Jordan Hare, he was all-time bad. I mean, he looked like below a freshman. He looked like he was still in high school, and he had learned nothing. That's how bad he played on the road last season. And, he won some big games, so everybody forgot you had a 28% completion percentage on the road. And that we stayed in that LSU game. I mean, we gave LSU the toughest game they had all season. And they scored more points than defense, dog.
We wasted that defense. Jesus.
College football history. And if he was average in that game, we could have won it. If he was average, we could have won it. He wasn't. He was terrible. So if that Bo is behind us, I'm good. I don't need him to be perfect. I promise I will not be picking through his game with a fine tooth comb, right? I just want to feel like we've moved past that. These coaches have figured out a way to develop a freshman QB, because that's something we haven't seen in Auburn since ever, right? Like, let's be real. Let's be real. Like, the last freshman QB we developed was Jason Campbell. Name another one that we recruited that came in as a freshman and finished his career at Auburn and had success, right? All the others have been JUCOs, period, right? So anyway, that's it. That's all I got. I'm just.
Well, you're going to find out in 3 days if he's the same boat. You're going to find out this weekend.
What's up. So
we're going to know.
You guys, thank you for sticking in here with us for this long show. It's, an hour and 40-minute show. But, as always, we're going to be here on YouTube. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. We will have game day, pregame reactions coming up, halftime reactions to what you see, and then we'll have the post-game wrap-up. We'd love to have you guys right back here with us. If you're watching us on or if you're following us on Instagram and Twitter, thank you so much. But we'll try to get some more content up there on those channels coming up here soon. So we are at the War Report there. If you are on TikTok, we've got content dropping over there, TW Report on TikTok. We're also on Facebook at The War Report. Thank y'all very much for sticking in with us. We will holler at you all on Saturday. Until then, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.